Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on which part of this country that you're in. You're watching Rebel Roundup. It is Monday. I'm your host, Sheila Gunn, and I'm joined by my co-host today, my friend, my colleague, someone I rely on a lot when I'm busy doing other projects, Tamara Ugolini. Tamara, how's it going?
Well, it's a manic Monday here, Sheila, but
Isn't it?
unsurprising. Yeah, it's just more par for the course, as they say, but I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, good. Just waiting on the weather, as all of us farmers are. We'll tell everybody what we're doing around here. We want to keep the show tight today. They need the studio at 2 Eastern, and Tamara and I are super busy. So we'll do our best to do that. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can leave a paid chat that's called a super chat over there. If your paid chats are over the $5 US cutoff, we're reading it on air. If you are watching us on Rumble, that's an excellent free speech platform. Same rules apply. And we ask you to do this, or we invite you to do this, I should say, because we don't take a penny from the government to do the work that we do around here. So we rely on you at home, but we just don't want your money. We want to give you something else. And that's your say. And we've got a ton of things to talk about. Busy this weekend. Ezra and the gang were busy this weekend too. And we're going to get to all of that today. First things first, for those of you who don't know, I head party advertiser group in the referendum campaign. It's called Alberta's Choice. You can find it at alberta's-choice.com. Don't put albertaschoice.com. You'll end up somewhere else. Nice looking website, but it ain't mine. So albertas-choice.com. That's my registered third-party advertiser with Elections Alberta, fully compliant with Elections Alberta, I want to reiterate. And we did our first sign drop-off over the weekend, or series of sign drop-offs. We started in Calgary early in the morning, and then we went up to Red Deer, and then we went up to Edmonton. And I have to tell you, much to my surprise, I think Edmonton was the busiest location. People were there waiting for us to get there, and we were a half an hour early. And our signs say, Quebec got to vote. Why can't we? Because we have to have a referendum on a referendum before we can ever have a referendum, which hardly seems fair when Quebec got two votes. And it was just considered part of the regular democratic process. So by making Albertans jump through these hoops, it only speaks to the mistreatment or maltreatment, unequal treatment of Albertans within Confederation. And I think making us have a referendum on a referendum, thanks to activist judges, it only fuels the separatist fires. We had a lot of fun. Angelica and Lyndon were also out helping me on delivering signs. Some people couldn't make it to the pickup drop-off, so we were getting messages. And as we were moving to the next location, Angelica was dropping off signs in Airdrie. Lyndon was dropping off signs in Sylvan Lake. And then people were sending us pictures of the signs up on their lawns. And so it was fun. This is Sylvan Lake. Can you tell which way that guy's voting in the referendum? He's got them all. It's a great time. And I love meeting our people out in the wild. So if you have photos of your sign on your lawn that has yet to be molested by the Forever Canada people, do send me a photo. I'd love to see it.
What was the sentiment out there, Sheila? Like, what was the feedback from the people on the ground that you were hearing and seeing?
What is awesome? People really like the message, and unfortunately, that was not my sign idea. That was Ezra's. Um, but people were happy. They were just glad to see that we're out there busy, working on the campaign. And, as you can see, people aren't playing favorites when it comes to what third-party advertiser they're supporting. They're just so eager to get a chance to vote that they are just, I had people asking me for Cory Morgan signs. Incidentally, I had about 6. So I was able to give a few of those out. It was awesome. People were just excited to see us and to support our work, to give Albertans a choice and a voice on October 19th. But that doesn't seem to be stopping the bad guys on the other side from their malicious intent. I noticed the independence-minded people are so hopeful, like they have a lot of arguments, and the other side just has nostalgia and apparently violence. Last week we saw somebody flung into traffic, possibly inadvertently, but what do you expect when you're wrestling a flag on a hockey stick out of some man's hand on a median? And I think he was clipped by that car. And then we saw this in Calgary. Calgary guy post, I had a minor incident this morning with my Choose Alberta sign. A lady pulled it out of the ground, and I know some of Corey Morgan's signs were vandalized over the weekend as well. Look at this. Trespassing and vandalism. What does that lady think that she did there? She really thinks she showed somebody, doesn't she?
Yeah. You can see in her little trot along that she thinks that she's helping in some way.
Yeah, look at, you really changed that independent supporter's heart and mind by
Yeah.
trespassing on his lawn and then vandalizing his property. This
Mhm.
is the best they have to offer us.
Yeah,
And
it's like
actually,
the epitome of taking your ball and going home. Like,
yeah,
well, fine, I'll just kick your sign down and hope that that helps.
actually, Olivia, I know you're on the spot, but can you go to the Unite Alberta Flags X account? I got this press release from them in my email inbox about an hour and a half ago. And from what I understand, there's better video footage of this allegedly, don't sue me, Thomas Lukaszik's people happening at the Wetaskiwin Canada Day parade, which is sort of in between Edmonton and Red Deer-ish. Scroll down. Here's the video. Go back. We'll show the video in a second, but let's go through the press release. Go down. We'll go through the press release, and I'll just do a Cole's note because I read through it and then wrote it up for the website. They allege that at the Wetaskiwin Canada Day parade, and they include a screenshot of the lady in question, and there's something wrong with the middle-aged boomer white lady cohort, that United, pardon me, Alberta Flags. This is John Tompkinson's third-party advertiser group. John's been on the show before on the Buffalo panel. His third-party advertiser gives out free Alberta flags. That's it. That's all they do. Now, they are registered as a third-party advertiser group in favor of a vote on separation, but really their political work involves painting the province blue with this thing, which no one should find offensive. But at the Wetaskiwin Canada Day parade, the Forever Canada people are alleged to have been taking the flags, blue flags, out of the hands of children. And so John and his people have reported, they reached out when they were there on the ground. They were talking to the Forever Canada people and were having a friendly exchange with them. People remarked, actually posted online, isn't it nice to see that we can actually be on other sides of this question and still sort of get along, or at least not be violent and flinging each other into traffic or vandalizing people's signs sneakily like that crazy lady we just saw. Well, later on in the day, it's alleged that the Forever Canada people, like a boomer grandma type, was yanking a flag or flags out of the hands of children that were waving them on Canada Day. And I think they might have posted a video of the lady in question. Now, when they included a screenshot of the lady in question in their press release, just she could be from Toronto, from the suburbs of Toronto.
Probably.
Yeah, like she looks like my stereotypical, in my mind, Carney voter who lives in the suburbs of Toronto. And if you go back on their X account, Olivia, just when you go up, there's a video, I think, of her being confronted about taking the flags. Olivia, if you can scroll up, open that.
People have how woke and infiltrated the RCMP have become on these topics.
Yeah. And every time they do this to Corey, it helps him. He's like, guess what? I just ordered another 100 4x8 signs. And he put them up on a higher platform. He and the landowner moved them up so that the lazy little monkeys from the Federalist side will give up, because it involves a little more effort to get a ladder and then go up and spray paint these signs. But yeah, this is a criminal act of vandalism.
Mhm.
And it should be investigated. but it probably won't. This is just the way it is. You don't hear the Forever Canada people complaining that their stuff has been vandalized, by the way.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, when it's only happening on one side, like, I mean, come on, let's do some due
Yeah.
diligence here. But Corey did note that there are new cameras and there is surveillance now on at that intersection. So we'll see. They catch
Yeah.
anybody in the act, but
Well, and even if they do,
yeah,
they
what will
won't do
happen?
anything about it. I mean, that one lady's caught on a Ring video doorbell, sneaking up with their weird little dog and then pulling the sign out thinking that, "Oh, look at me. I've just changed the mind of the homeowner now. I guess he's a federalist since I pulled this sign out." Like, you're just being a jerk. Stop it. Talk to people face to face. Have an informed discussion with them, listen to them, and maybe you might change a mind, but trespassing on someone's property, that's a good way to get hit on the head with a baseball bat.
Yeah, one thing she didn't do there was touch grass, and it seems like that's all that was really needed in that moment.
Right, right. Can't
Just
even
touch the
imagine.
grass. All right,
Imagine.
moving along, we have a great clip this morning coming out of the Smith and Ford presser. I like, why is Premier of Ontario Doug Ford in Alberta? Sneaky,
No
sneaky.
thanks.
Yeah.
I wonder if he took a private jet.
Yeah, I wonder, does he still have the one that, what was it,
No,
billions of
yeah, they sold
tax
it at a
dollars?
loss.
Yeah, but did they? Did they? Maybe he was getting his last jaunt in before they
Mm.
had to actually finalize the sale. So here he's telling our Rebel reporter Angelica Toy, sorry, I mean she, Premier Smith, I can't misgender her, that she has absolute confidence that private companies will step up in the pipeline.
Premier Smith, the South Bow pipeline to the U.S. is fully subscribed. It has signed contracts with so many oil producers. It will be full for the next 20 years. The Carney pipeline project has no customers signed up. Isn't it obvious that no one in the industry actually believes this is going to be built? Certainly not enough to put their own money into it.
Well, thanks for the nice neutral question.
Mm.
I would say it's a bit premature to make that point. I think that what we've done with our West Coast pipeline is announced an intention for the federal and provincial government to work together. We've got a private proponent. We have to make sure that we can get all of the Indigenous consultation and ownership stake, make sure that we do the environmental approvals. And I have absolute confidence with the conversations that we've been having with the Pathways Group that we will get those commitments. Remember, you can start a pipeline with a smaller amount going through it, and then you can do compression, just like we're seeing with the Trans Mountain pipeline. They began with a little bit of a smaller volume, but they're also increasing now up to 300,000 barrels. I think it's our job to make sure that we can expand the industry by 2 million barrels. So not only can we fill the South Bow line, we can fill the West Coast line, we can fill our new northern, what are we calling yours? Northern Shield, our new Northern Shield pipeline, and also be able to serve north, south, east, west. I mean, this is the whole point of what we were trying to do in building out economic corridors. So I think it's a great project. We have to remember a few years ago, we were talking about projects in all direction. We're talking about Northern Gateway, Keystone, and Energy East. And for various reasons for each of them, because of regulatory uncertainty or because of permits being canceled, they ended up all stalling. So this is resurrecting all three of those concepts, perhaps on different corridors with some different partners. But I feel like the industry was there 10 years ago. They can be there again.
Except they aren't. First of all, that's a great hat, by the way. She's got a great hat, great crown on that hat. But she says that there's a private sector proponent. She's talking about Pembina? Pembina Pipeline is only into this for 10% of a stake, and it's largely in an advisory and consultancy role. So right now, the only proponents of this pipeline are you and I as the Canadian taxpayer in a couple of different ways, both through provincial money and federal money. And, you know, if you say Trans Mountain is another proponent, well, that's an arm of the federal government. So, and she's right to point out that the Bridger South Bow pipeline is fully subscribed. And that is a really strong indicator of the industry's confidence in the pipeline getting built. You know, they call it Keystone Light. It's the pipeline that's going north-south through Hardisty. And when you're building these things, you say to the upstream oil and gas producers, hey, we're building a pipeline. Well, you put your oil in it, and it's fully subscribed for the next 20 years, indicating investor confidence in this. Because, upstream oil and gas, you have to make investments, you have to buy leases, you have to ramp up infrastructure, tank farms, all those sorts of things. And industry is willing to do that to fill the Bridger South Bow. We don't have that yet for this pipeline. And so that speaks to in private sector investor confidence in this thing. And it also shows that if you have a government that will just get out of the way, i.e. the Americans, industry can build things. That's what's happening with Bridger South Bow. We can't do that domestically, and that's a disgrace.
Yeah.
And it's not a victory. It's the Venezuelaification of our oil and gas sector.
That's just it. I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure that the Pathways project is probably a big part of scaring away investors, because no one from the private sector is going to want to have to be strangled by regulations. They'll be scared away by this the carbon capture requirements. And this isn't a way to unleash investment. This is how you squash it. And that's exactly why it has been squashed for the last 10 years. And these investors, I don't know, Danielle Smith says they're there, but I would say after 10 years, they're gone south. They're not here
and
anymore.
If they're there, why aren't they investing in this pipeline?
Yeah.
If they're there, where are they? Because they're not here. Ezra points out, and he's so right to say it, nobody cares how green your oil is. Nobody cares. There was a point at which the world was buying oil from ISIS, okay? Oil is the elixir of life. And if you are desperate for it, you will buy it from anybody, including Venezuela and the world's bad guys, Algeria, Nigeria, and ISIS, like a terror state. They were buying it from the caliphate just to have it. Do you think they care if we have a carbon trading scheme before they buy it from us? Do you think the impoverished people of the world, or not even first world countries, are looking at us and saying, I would buy your oil, but I'm going to need to see a 700% hike in the carbon tax, which will actually make your oil more expensive? Do you think anybody's saying that? You have to be crazy to think that anybody's saying that. But Mark Carney is telling that to people, and they're believing it for some reason.
Is your oil carbon neutral? Because otherwise we aren't interested in it. As you said, no one's saying that.
No one's saying that. But if people ask me that, I would say it is, given the size of the boreal forest. I believe it is, actually.
Absolutely. Look at our vast green spaces and rainforests in this country. We have the largest landmass and the least population. That in and of itself, I think, speaks volumes to the carbon neutrality potential of this entire nation. But who's making money? Obviously Mark Carney is his Brookfield Bros and Brookfield adjacent investments that are supposedly in a blind trust, but you put them in a blind trust. So that they're there, obviously. And that's all the Pathways project is going to fuel is his own linings of his pockets.
Yeah. And just think, we're going to spend gajillions of dollars. We're going to tax everybody gajillions of dollars, give it to the big six. And the big six are going to magically suck CO2 out of the air and stick it in the ground. That's what it takes to get a pipeline built. We're not a real country. We're crazy. Anyway, let's move ahead. Doug Ford. I'm going to skip over the one Doug Ford clip. No, I'll come back to it. He said, and there are days where there's bad Doug Ford and then there's good Doug Ford. And my other clip is, I think, why he's really here, but we'll talk about that in a second. He says previous governments have treated Alberta like garbage. I would suggest that the current one does as well. They just do it with a smile. But let's watch this.
Premier Ford, you said back in May that Premier Smith was putting an independence question on the ballot to protect her 30% base. Have you two spoken about the referendum?
Let me talk about that. I think the world of Premier Smith, first of all. And we're focused on a pipeline. I know, well, let me cut to the chase here. The previous federal government, not this one, the previous federal government treated Alberta like garbage, like terrible. I've never seen anything as bad as that. So I know that Premier Smith wants a proud, sovereign Alberta, part of Canada. And again, we're there to support her. It's Team Canada. I'll do anything we can. But thank you for that question.
He really doesn't answer that at all.
No.
Massive deflection, as per usual, from the likes of progressive conservative Doug Ford.
Yeah,
but
I thought it was
where
funny.
was he?
Yeah,
like you've held premier title for almost a decade. Where have you been in all of this?
Yeah, where was he sticking up for Alberta before? I do like, though, the question, because Smith immediately started laughing. Because and let me be clear, I like Danielle Smith. I think she's a good premier. I think this is a bad deal, and I think she probably knows it. And I think she just wants something on the table, anything. But to pony up taxpayer cash, even she knows that's wrong. She has spent decades of her life railing against government meddling in private industry. Now what is she doing? Like, where's the Danielle Smith used to know and love? I think she's still in there. I think she just wants a win. But Doug Ford said some terrible things about Danielle Smith, and I'm glad that reporter put him on the spot for it right in front of her. But for him to say, well, this government's treating Alberta better. Where? How? I don't see it. No clue.
Yeah, false pretenses and false promises under this MOU, which, I mean, yeah, we'll see. It's all just taxpayer funded. More squandering of the tax dollars into.
They said the same thing, by the way. They said the same stuff with Trans Mountain. They said, "Oh, well, we'll just take it over and build it because we've made the regulatory process so onerous. We changed the rules halfway through. We'll just take it over. We'll spend 800% more, and then private industry will buy it."
For like 3 times the amount.
When did that happen? That didn't happen at all. Angelica asked Doug Ford, what are you doing here?
Good.
And she put it to him that perhaps you are in Big Blue Alberta because you want us to like you, because you want to take Poilievre's spot as the leader. And I'm glad she asked him this, because absolutely that's why he's here.
We saw pictures of you campaigning at the Calgary Stampede. Are you trying to shore up support to challenge Pierre Poilievre for the next Conservative Party leader?
Can I borrow that line, that neutral question? I'm going to use it with the Toronto media. This is like a church picnic compared to the Toronto media. But anyways, I wasn't campaigning. People asked for pictures, so I took pictures. There was a lot of pictures, I'll tell you that. But I love the people of Alberta. We share the same values. And we just have a great relationship with the premier and the folks here in Alberta. I love it here, actually.
First of all, I don't think he has that great of a relationship with the premier. I don't think we share the same values.
No.
No, like we are cracking down on gender madness, fighting the culture war. We believe in fiscal responsibility. We're trying to fight back against uncontrolled immigration. We believe people should have a say in what they do and how they live their lives. I don't think he believes the same thing we do. There's a vast gully between Western conservatives and Eastern conservatives.
Hence why they had to insert progressive in front of their name, because they're conservative in name only and lean hard left towards that progressive side of things. And what has it done for the province? I mean, we're billions of dollars in debt, and there's just no fiscal prudency by any means by this allegedly progressive conservative government under Doug Ford. And he just continues to enrich and enshrine himself. The immigration situation in Ontario is so out of control because we end up with more than half of all immigration that's supposed to be dispersed across the country. More than half of it ends up in Ontario, and specifically in the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area. And Doug Ford has to have known this for at least the last Well, 2022 and arguably even kind of the tail end of 2021 is when it really skyrocketed. I mean, where has this guy been for the last 5 years plus on this file? He said a few times, like, oh, we've really got to try to rein it in. But he's done nothing to actually do any of that. And now the whole area is in complete disarray. And we hear it across the nation. Hospitals are overrun, schools are overcrowded, infrastructure is decaying and not keeping up pace with the record number of population that has dwarfed historical averages and just flooded the region. It's done absolutely nothing about any of this. So to say that we have the same values, that is rich at best.
Can I also point out one more value that we have that Doug Ford doesn't have? Doug Ford had to come all the way to Alberta to get a question from a rebel. Why?
Yeah.
Because in our province, we believe in freedom of the press, but certainly not in Ontario. A rebel cannot attend a government press conference and put a question to the premier. We're not allowed to. In Alberta, independent media are welcomed into the press scrums. We ask questions all the time. We can call in to a press conference. We can attend in person. We're perfectly welcome, and they're not scared of our questions, even though they are not neutral questions, as our premier pointed out. And what happened to you, Doug? You answered it. You got a question from a rebel, and the sky didn't fall. So why can't my colleagues in Ontario ask the same sort of questions to you in their own province, on their own turf? The only way a rebel could put a question to that guy is in Alberta. So no, we don't have to use Doug, not at all.
100%. And I can attest, even in email, they don't respond, let alone face-to-face in person.
Yeah. Well, just money. Why spend? You want to do this, spend your own money.
100%. Exactly. And what are these people so scared of? It is a vote. Well, yeah, but it is a vote on a vote. I mean, this is craziness to not even to try to stop even a vote on a potential vote from going forward is just absolutely insane. And I mean, talk about fiscal irresponsibility. There's just no regard there for the tax dollars that would be utilized for democracy infringing purpose. This is just insanity. Like, these people are, who advises these people? I mean,
put up your own money, put up your own signs. You know, we got a third prizer going over here. People are making donations to keep us doing activities out in the world. If he thinks that his viewpoint is viable and supportable, surely somebody will do it for, like surely somebody will throw some money behind him. Instead, he wants the Calgary taxpayer to do it. Well, the crackheads run amok downtown and the potholes knock your earrings out. It's got better things to do as a mayor, I would hope. Let's hit an ad break. We'll come back on the other side, because while I was busy handing out signs at albertas-choice.com, by the way, I'm going to be in Westlock tomorrow night. Go to the website for details. And then I've got another date later on in the week towards the east central part of the province. But while I was busy doing that, some of the Ontario, but also the Quebec crew were at the U.S. Embassy to take in the July 4th celebrations. We'll talk about that on the other side. Let's hit an ad break.
For generations, many Canadians have preserved more than just firearms. They've preserved history, tradition, competition, memories. But under Trudeau, and now Carney, heirlooms, estates, collectibles, and competition firearms now have to be surrendered and destroyed. While violent gun criminals get pass after pass, openly ignoring any legislation, lawful gun owners are trapped in an increasingly unfair legal system. But we can help. Canada's National Firearms Association's Save Firearms program offers the legal pathway to preserve what matters, while we work towards a political solution. Don't let yours be next. Save history. Save heritage. Save firearms. Visit nfa.ca today to learn more.
In Canada, firearms owners like me understand the importance of safe, effective self-defense options. That's why we're proud to have Byrna as a sponsor. Byrna's less lethal launchers are designed to help protect you and your family without taking a life. Byrna offers peace of mind, accessibility, and a practical layer of personal security for Canadians who value safety. Learn more at byrna.ca/rebel. That's BYRNA.ca/rebel.
Canada's been told to just quit smoking for decades, same message over and over, and yet millions of Canadians still smoke. So let's ask a follow-up question. For those who don't quit, what about change? In 2026, Canada has options that didn't exist years ago. Smoke-free alternatives for adults who would otherwise continue smoking. That doesn't mean risk-free, it means informed choice. If you don't smoke, don't start. If you smoke, quit. But for those who don't quit, change could still be part of the conversation. That's why Canadians should check out unsmoke.ca, an information resource focused on smoke-free alternatives and honest facts, not judgment. Put the lighter down, Canada. Learn what your options are.
All right. Which one of us is going to do the ad read from Rumble Wallet?
Let me take it on here.
Okay.
All right. We have Rumble Wallet. We hear a lot about crypto, but there is a part that most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you've felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today. Everyone has heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. You can choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stable coins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like Rebel News directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. So there you go. Now, okay, on US relations.
Yes.
We have Independence Day celebrations, 4th of July, this past weekend at the U.S. Embassy. And U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra had a message here for Ezra. So a few of the rebels attended the event. And as far as good times had by all, and lots of good allegiances being solidified and formed. And as we see, Prime Minister Mark Carney essentially disavowing U.S. relations and saying that our old relationship is gone forever and it's fractured and we're in this new world order rupture. Rebels here saying, well, maybe not so fast, because these are our friends, our neighbors, and people who we have forged historical partnership with since the beginning of Confederation. And I think that partnership and that friendship and that allyship still very much exists today. And so we have this video here from the ambassador to Ezra that we wanted to share with all of you.
What message would you have for Canadians on how to strengthen the relationship between our two countries? Because there's been some stress over the last year. I've seen a flourishing of anti-Americanism that I do not like, and I can only imagine how it is to be you and to face that anti-Americanism. What's your hope or advice for the year ahead?
I think our best days can be ahead of us. I'm not guaranteeing that. I know they are for the United States. Okay, it's America first. That's the direction we're going to go. We know what we need to do to stay strong, to bring prosperity, safety, and security to the American people. That's the mission that Donald Trump has put us on. We think that Canada can play a strong role in bringing prosperity, safety, and security to both sides of the border. We've demonstrated that over the last 20 or 30 years, if you want to reassess the relationship with the United States, whether it's the economic relationship, whether it is the military relationship, you're more than welcome to do that. I mean, that's what sovereign countries do. If you pick a path that aligns with the United States, you're very, very welcome. We look forward to that partnership and building on all of the success that we've done over the last number of years. If you decide to go in a different direction, we wish you all of the best. That's not where we want you to go, but we recognize that that is a debate that Canada is having as to, whether there's a rupture, which means you have to look for new partners at the expense of the United States, that you're going to do defense on, those are hard. Those are hard. But if that's the direction we want to go, we recognize that that's a decision that you can make.
Well, I hope that the two countries continue more than friends, almost like
Absolutely.
brothers.
It's hard to put family relationship. I won't go there, but it's families are tough.
Yeah, that's true.
But in terms of economic, defense, security, and all of those types of things, there are a lot of things that we can do much.
Board dumping out the bottle on live air.
Yeah, if you could call it dumping out booze, because he couldn't figure out what a vapor lock is, and then realizing after the fact that it was bottled in Gimli, Manitoba.
What a failure!
Yeah,
An absolute joke of a premier he is.
Yeah, we can get American booze here, Alberta, and Doug Ford didn't care that Danielle Smith, or he didn't care for that Danielle Smith did that, but it didn't fracture our trade relationship like this stunt.
Oh my gosh. What a waste. Like, we already paid for that.
How do bottles even work? Look at them.
Just letting it
trickling out.
This is how Doug Ford feels about your tax dollars.
Yeah.
By the way.
No, I'm fully convinced that somebody in his media team, like his comms team, doesn't like him at all, because somebody should have told him, first of all, that's not going to work. And second of all, Gimli, Manitoba. Like, just dumb. Just dumb. What a regrettable stunt.
Meanwhile, you can go shoot up fentanyl in the parks in basically any park throughout Ontario. And that's okay. But American bourbon, watch out.
Shit, they'll even give you the fentanyl. I know we don't have time left, but I'm doing a video on this because hidden inside this little Wall Street Journal story is an interesting little tidbit. So this was in the Wall Street Journal, and it's titled, "There's no going back inside the story of Europe's rupture with America." And in that is the revelation that Mark Carney regularly messaging Europe's major leaders using a British phone number from his time in London, trying to persuade them that the, quote, old America isn't coming back. I don't know why he's doing that. I guess to get them to strike deals with him. But that's not just a cutesy little tidbit about where Mark Carney came from and where he thinks everything's going. Because Mark Carney could be violating several laws if this reporting is accurate. First of all, Mark Carney wants sweeping powers over here in Canada while he's using a foreign one for himself. I feel like that's pretty relevant. The Canadian government with Bill C-22 is pushing legislation that would significantly expand Ottawa's authority over Canada's telecommunications sector in the name of national security. And it will give the federal government broad powers to issue security orders to telecommunications companies and require providers to comply with government directives and increase federal oversight over Canada's communications infrastructure, which includes your personal cell phone. And we're being told that this is necessary because secure communications matter. But that principle might not apply to the Prime Minister himself. At least it does, but he doesn't think it does, because it sure do apply to him. So we need to know a lot of things about this cell phone. Do you think that this is a government approved cell phone? Probably not. If he has access to high level security documents, which he does. There are standards put out there by the Communication Security Establishment and the Treasury Board that his phone must comply with. How do we know it is? That's why you're supposed to have a government-issued cell phone. If these calls are made on his personal British cell phone, then they're not atypable. I can't file for them through access filings. So I won't have access to the calls, the text messages. And how do we know if this stuff is being retained as government records through the Library and Archives Act of Canada? Are they subject to federal information management policies? I don't know. So if I can't obtain them, regular Canadians can't obtain them. And if he's using this for official business, are official Canadian communications being routed or stored through infrastructure subject to UK law as opposed to Canadian law? And what security assessment, if any, was done before using that device to communicate with foreign leaders? By the way, he's texting with foreign leaders on a British personal cell phone. Red alarm bells should be going off in everybody's head. And
Is
then,
that
of course,
where his primary residence it may be?
of course, naturally. And of course, the biggest irony here is the government's demanding unprecedented oversight over your cell phone while Carney's using a British one to get around access, security laws, and quite possibly me too.
Sounds like Mark Carney is taking a page out of Doug Ford's book when it comes to shielding his cell phone records from public scrutiny and FOI requests and ATIP requests. This, and I also kind of noted in my
American media, right? It's always American media. I'll let you pick the last story because we want to wrap up early.
Yes, and I think that will be basic now. But we'll just get to this one last headliner from the National Post. Fuji, who stabbed a stranger, could soon be freed from Ontario hospital. Significant threat to the public. I mean, okay, so yeah, Ontario, when our Premier Doug Ford goes to Alberta and says we have shared values, I guess this is what he meant, but not actually happening in reality. In Alberta, there's, more stringent laws, and that you have a premier who wants to uphold public safety and speaks out regularly about it. And then this is what we have happening in Ontario. So this guy named Delroy Apple has criminal convictions in Canada for offenses including sexual assault, assault with a weapon, armed robbery, assaulting a peace officer, indecent assault, and probation breaches. I mean, that is a track record right there that should have this person jailed and held. But because he identifies as LGBTQ, I guess thanks to the woke justice system that we have in this country and also in Ontario, you can get away scot-free with your crimes because you're, I don't know, considered a vulnerable person.
How did he even get into the country? He had previous convictions in the United States for drug offenses. If you're a trucker from the United States and you've got an assault charge or something from a gazillion years ago, and you've lived a moral, upstanding life since then, the Canadian government will turn you around at the border and say you're not allowed to come into the country because you're a threat to public safety. This guy was deported from the United States for drug offenses back to Guyana, and then he came here.
With open arms, undoubtedly.
We're like, get in here. Get in here, you big rainbow lug.
Yeah, because he's being, what's the word that I'm looking for?
Discriminated against.
Thank you.
He had schizo. This guy, they always say we're getting the doctors and the engineers, but listen to this. He'd been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality traits, and a severe amphetamine type substance use disorder, and he was found NCR on account of a mental disorder in April 2020 for an aggravated assault in the summer before that left a stranger in Toronto with multiple stab wounds. Doctors and engineers, that's what we're getting, guys.
And so this stems back to July of 2019. Mr. Apple was in a convenience store when he suddenly attacked the victim, a stranger to him, so just like a random attack, by shattering 2 glass bottles from a shelf, wrestling the victim to the floor and stabbing him multiple times with the shattered bottles.
Ma'am, there's another key part of this story that I don't think we should miss before we wrap the show. He moved to Canada in 2003 and lived with relatives. He then moved to the United States and lived with his father until he was deported 2 years later for the aforementioned drug charges. He returned to Canada in 2020 as a, quote, protected person based on his LGBTQ classification. A year later, he married a woman, but they separated the following year, said the decision, which notes Apple has been financially supported by Tamara Ugolini, the Ontario Disability Support Program, since 2014. So this is just an example of what's going on in the Canadian immigration system. Came to Canada in 2003, moves to the United States. By the way, he's a crazy person. And I say that with the facts to back it up. I just don't think he's like a lunatic. He is a medically diagnosed crazy person, drug addict, and violent. He goes to the United States. They're like, he's crazy. He's violent. He's on drugs. He's a criminal. Get out. They send him back. He comes back to Canada in 2010 as an LGBTQ refugee and then marries a woman a year later. And then has been sitting on disability ever since, terrorizing the good people of Ontario.
At our own expense. At our expense, and then hitting up the hospital for various symptoms of paranoia and psychosis brought on by the use of crystal meth.
Get the paddy wagon and the rhino tranquilizer and send this guy on the first plane back to wherever he came from. Get out.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. That's shared values. That's what's happening in Ontario. And Premier Doug Ford thinks that we have some shared values with Alberta.
Yeah, no.
He was not tolerating any of this kind of nonsense.
We don't want this. And we don't want judges that do this. We will withhold funding to the federal government because they appoint judges who are okay with this. And we don't like that.
Yeah. Here we are in Ontario. And he's living now in Whitby, Ontario. So Whitby, Ontario, if you're there, beware.
You got a methed up stabber crazy person on the loose who's claiming to be LGBTQ.
An LGBTQ refugee just stabbing people, random people on the streets of Whitby, Ontario. Be fair warned. All right. Thanks, everybody, for making the stream possible. And we will see you back here, same time and place, tomorrow from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern for another round of Rebel Roundup. Until then, stay sane and question everything.
Pipeline through that goes towards the West Coast have capture carbon capture plans embedded into it. Is it the same thing here, or is it not decided yet?
The agreement that we had with the federal government in partnering on the West Coast pipeline, which is our priority, and I think we're both very keen to get that to market very quickly. We're quite a bit more advanced on that one since we have a project design. We've got a private proponent who's come forward. We've got the federal government willing to partner with us. We have heard from the federal government that they wanted to link those two. We had the Pathways project linked with that West Coast pipeline. And so we're going to be committed to continuing along that path. And remember, the Pathways project has 3 parts to it. One part is the carbon capture trunk line, but the other part is best available technology. And whether that's nuclear or geothermal that allows us to decarbonize, that's going to be available to any operator once those types of technologies are mature and once we've built the interties between us and Saskatchewan. So I would say that there's going to be an opportunity to decarbonize all of our barrels once we start moving down that pathway in the coming years.